Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and it's Sunday night, January 18th, and we're back with the 1560 Geneva Bible. Yes, I've been absent for a while from my readings of the 1560 Geneva Bible, the Founders Bible, the Puritans Bible. I can't keep apologizing. Life just happens sometimes, and I honestly, I was just worn out and took a little break over the holidays. But we're picking up again. And those of you who are new to this journey, just a reminder or just an introduction, the 1560 Geneva Bible is the highly accurate translation from the Hebrew, put together in Geneva, now part of Switzerland, of course, by reformers, Protestant reformers, who were translating it at the risk of their lives, because they wanted, as they put it, every plowboy to be able to read and understand the Word of God. And in fact, some of them were martyred, executed by the state for having done so. It was a time of great sectarian conflict between, of course, Protestant reformers and the Roman Catholic Church, ending in the emergence of what became the Church of England. But that was in the future. So what we've been working through is Numbers. And I'm not going to, pretend Numbers isn't challenging. Sometimes it's incredibly dramatic. We're still in the desert. We're still in the desert, you guys. We're still with the children of Israel in the desert, and the central drama. This is Loki, of course. He always likes to sit on my lap when I do a podcast. The central drama is that the children of Israel just keep refusing to do the kind of basic things that God is asking them. But above all, they keep refusing to just trust him. And as we've discussed so many times, he clearly in this set of texts wants a relationship of love with his human family, including free will. He doesn't want them to be slaves. He doesn't want them to be robots. He wants them to want to love him. Hi, Lucas. We're getting highs from around the world. And so it's this central drama, which feels so real and kind of that word verisimilitude. It just has the ring of truth of some kind, right? I can't say these events literally happen the way they're described, but there's a ring of truth to the persona of Yahweh being continually disappointed, like I don't ask for much, just these little things. And the children of Israel just showing an absolute inability or unwillingness to just persevere and trust him. And no matter, and it's like the emotion feels so real of God, basically saying, no matter how many miracles I give you, no matter how much I feed you with miraculous manna in the desert, no matter how I show up as a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of smoke by day, no matter how I parted the Red Sea for you, no matter that I gave you tablets with 10 commandments so that you can, live according to my mitzvot, according to my commandments, my guidance, none of it is enough for you. You just keep complaining. And the verisimilitude, I've said this before, usually founding mythologies of a nation or a people are made over time to sound very heroic, and to portray that people as being really exemplary, and the leaders especially as being really larger than life and always making the right decision, never showing fear or poor judgment. That's not this book. That's not this book. And that is paradoxically why it feels so real to me, which is amazing because I've never read it cover to cover in Hebrew before. And as I'm reading it, I'm going, whoa, something really real is happening here. Because, remember, the children of Israel are not portraying themselves in a particularly impressive light. They keep revealing themselves to be kind of cowards or petty, the last few chapters we had petty squabbles of the brother and sister of Moses saying, what's so special about you? Why can't we be in charge? And then squabbles with Aaron. That was the last chapter. Remember, Aaron's staff, his walking staff, burst into blossom miraculously to show that he really was God's chosen priest, and his lineage, his family, really are the chosen priestly clan, essentially. But that came after squabbles of people saying, why is he in charge? What's wrong with us? Aren't we holy men too? So people just cannot get with the program that God is asking them to get with. And he's thoroughly exasperated. And the other thing is, in founding mythologies, it's not just the tribe or the lineage or the clan that is portrayed. I mean, think of Beowulf, right? Or even, Ulysses and the Odyssey and the Iliad. Very heroic, right? Very impressive. The founding of this people, but even God is not portrayed as, how can I put it? He's portrayed as being very human. I've said this before. Humans are like God in this story, meaning there's a family similarity. God has vulnerabilities that we think of as human. God has needs. God needs us to love him. God needs us to be close to him out of our own free will. God longs for us to, just be able to create a holy family with him. He wants that connection, just like human beings want connection. So that is not the way we are conditioned to think about God. We're conditioned to think God needs nothing from us, and that he's so far above us and completely kind of remote, and we need all kinds of middlemen to get to him. This is a constant theme of this journey, but God isn't saying that and this is not the story of Yahweh in the Hebrew Bible. It's a very loving but very humanly loving, emotionally open being, is the supreme being. Totally mind-blowing to me that this is the case, because this is definitely not, for I think very cynical reasons, not the way God is portrayed to us. Because if we understood God to be that guy, we wouldn't need and blindly obey organized religion. We would seek out our own relationship with God, because we would know that God really wants, he's itching his ear. We would know that God really, really wants an authentic relationship with us. That's the thing in these texts God wants the most: authentic love, real love, not arbitrary. And Yeshua came, 1,500 years later, to say the same thing. It's not about the externals. It's not about the form. It's not about praying the loudest in synagogue. It's really about your heart. And can you turn your heart toward God? That's what he wants. Everything else, you're so itchy. Let's move you. Okay, well, he just wants to sit. He wants to sit there. He doesn't want to leave, but he also doesn't want me to move him. So he can just make himself comfortable. That's just the consistent story here. And it goes on and on and on. It's like, even from a narrative point of view, it's got that verisimilitude, because like an editor would say, hey, this is kind of dragging on, like, let's move the children of Israel into the land of Israel already. Okay, Yahweh, okay, Moses, let's just cut to the chase here. But there seems to be no such editor. That's why it feels so real. This very toxic and mutually frustrating relationship between Yahweh and the children of Israel is going on chapter after chapter after chapter with much the same themes. There's not a lot of character development with the children of Israel. They're not learning, right? Or some of them learn and move forward, and then others just can't and are abandoned or lost or destroyed. That's happened a few times now. So hence the verisimilitude. So I'm reprising all of that because we're going into another pretty technical chapter. Some of these chapters are absolutely riveting. Some have huge amounts of human drama, very real sounding sibling quarrels and territorial squabbles between, chieftains, and um, there's Moses, right? I mean, I've barely talked about him, but he's still there. Book after book, he's still there. And he's still the same personality who is full of doubts, who gets overwhelmed, who says things like, I need someone to help me delegate. I'm burning out from all the leadership needs that these people have of me. I can't do it all myself. His self-doubt, when he's tasked by God to do something, he often says, I don't speak very well, or I'm not that good at that, or are you sure, God, maybe someone else can do it. And it's that same personality. It's not an abstracted kind of heroic, Hellenistic persona, or it's not a Beowulf, right? It's not a.
There is a worldwide rush for gold right now and precious metals. China is buying gold. There are rumors that the Federal Reserve will be using gold to pay off federal debt, or the federal government will be using gold to pay off federal debt. Famous investors are buying gold. And there's a movement away from the dollar worldwide. And you can see that there are warning signs in the economy that appeared before the Great Depression in 2008 that are flashing red right now. So in all this instability, it is a very good idea to protect your savings, to protect your IRA by diversifying into precious metals, especially gold. There are a lot of gold companies out there. Not all of them are kosher. Not all of them are responsible businesses. American Alternative Assets really is. And we're very, very proud to have them as a sponsor. We're very picky about our sponsors, and we only accept sponsors who have products that we either use or invest in ourselves. So I really encourage you to go to cloutgold.com, cloutgold.com, and get a free report explaining to you what the risks are of not diversifying into gold and silver. And I just want to note that when Brian and I started talking about investing in gold 5 years ago, when it first became clear that you could do that easily, if we'd put in $1,000 then, it would be 5,000 now. If we'd put in 10,000 then, it would be 50,000 now, and so on. So obviously you can't predict everything about the future, but there's a limited amount of it on the planet. And in a time when you can have your assets switched off, if they're digital, like the truckers in Canada had their bank account switched off. People in Spain are having their bank account switched off. All of China is now on a social credit system. Your assets can be switched off. And Europe is pushing for central bank digital currency. Now is the time to diversify into gold.
It's not a hero. He's not a King Arthur. He's a very, also like God, right? A very vulnerable, relatable human being. I just want you to think about that for a minute, because, every culture brings something important to the human story and project, of course. And, the Norse gods and myths bring all kinds of tales of heroism, and the Knights of the Round Table and King Arthur bring an ethos of chivalry and knightly courtesy, and of course, the Iliad and the Odyssey have an incredible story to tell about warriors' obligations in battle, and patriotism toward one's city-state, and the importance of surviving adventures, right? All of these are different ethics that different cultures showcase in their founding myths. But think about what the Jews brought, right, in this text. They kind of brought the world, I would say, for the first time in such an extended text, the notion that ordinary human doubts and conflicts and struggles, and even family conflicts and doubts and struggles, are the stuff of profound national myth. They they, I think, brought the world this notion, which is very much part of our modern world now, of the kind of the Hamlet type hero. I mean, they brought the world, humanism, long before the Renaissance and a formal language of humanism. They brought the world the idea that you don't have to be a giant, you don't have to be a hero, you don't have to be a superhero, you don't have to be a king. You could just be a random human struggling to do your best, and that is enough, to be the stuff of myth. That's more than enough. That's the great journey, right? That's what they brought the world. That is the great journey. Us as ordinary, flawed, sometimes pathetic human beings struggling to, in this case, do something really heroic, which is walk with God, be holy people. So I think that's really interesting as a student of literature and literary genre. I think that's really, really interesting. And, of all the ways of telling stories or foregrounding characters that we have had and that we've been exposed to, that's the one that prevails, right? When you pick up a novel, or he's just grooming his entire self, but why not? When you pick up a modern novel or a 19th century novel, when you pick up the Brothers Karamazov, you're reading that kind of story, right? You're not reading a descendant of Beowulf or a descendant of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, or Gawain and the Green Knight, or even, a descendant of the Iliad and the Odyssey, a little bit, but not fundamentally. Fundamentally, you're reading a story that descends from this long, long, long narrative about one guy in the desert with God doing his best, with a bunch of people who don't want to go along with the program. And it's a psychological story, right? It's psychological development. It's a family romance. It's modernism. It's the modern world. It's the modern sense that human beings are central, that we center, as the left says these days, human beings, and their relationship to God, that we're not, ciphers, we're not archetypes, we're just mortals. And that's really interesting enough, that's important enough, and our struggles are important enough. All right, that's my preamble. So I brought you up to date. We're still in the desert. That, I'm just refreshing your memory, the scouts have been sent into, the land of Israel, Canaan, and have come back and have given a report that that it's inhabited by giants. People are very freaked out. And that's part of why we're getting all this melting down and psychodrama. The children of Israel are scared to enter the land of Israel because of this report from the scouts that everyone's huge. Honey, what do you need? A bath? What do you need? And so they're kind of quailing. They're like, choose someone else, choose someone else. But so that's where we're at. And so now God has shown everyone, stop rebelling, stop complaining. Aaron is the guy I choose. He's the priest. His sons are the priest, the priestly caste. And now we're picking up with chapter 18. And again, you can just go to archive.org, 1560 Geneva Bible, or you can, again, order it if you can afford to from Amazon. They've got the 1560 Geneva Bible in hardcover, but it's absolutely free to just go to archive.org. And I will start reading. And remember, the sub headlines are added. Okay. Chapter 18, the office of Aaron and his sons with the Levites and the priests, part of the offering to God as their patron. The Levites, it's very hard to read this. The Levites have and offer the tenth thereof to the Lord. Have the tithes and offer the tenth thereof to the Lord. Okay, so this is about tithing, which we still do. Many churches still ask you to give 10% of your income as a tithe. All right, and this is where it comes from. And the Lord said unto Aaron, thou, you, and your sons, and your father's house with you shall bear the iniquity of the sanctuary. Both you and your sons with you shall bear the iniquity of your priest's office. And bring also with you your brethren, your brothers of the tribe of Levi, of the family of your father, which shall be joined with you, and minister unto you. But you and your sons with you shall minister before the tabernacle of the testimony. And that's the tent of meeting, as you know, where God lives. And they shall keep your charge, meaning your responsibilities, your obligations, even the charge of all the tabernacle. But they shall not come near the instruments of the sanctuary, nor to the altar, lest they die, both they and you. And they shall be joined with you and keep the charge of the tabernacle of the congregation for all the service of the tabernacle, and no stranger shall come near unto you. Therefore shall you keep the charge of the sanctuary and the charge of the altar, so there shall fall no more wrath upon the children of Israel. Because remember, he had to kill a bunch of people because they rebelled so much against God's decision about how the priesthood should unfold and who should draw near the tent of meeting. You recall that from a couple of chapters ago. For lo, I have taken your brothers and Levites from among the children of Israel, which as a gift of yours are given unto the Lord, to do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. But you and your sons with you shall keep your priest's office for all things of the altar and within the veil. Therefore shall you serve, for I have made your priest's office an office of service. Therefore the stranger that comes near shall be slain. Again the Lord spoke unto Aaron, behold, I've given you the keeping of mine offerings, meaning sacrifices, of all the hallowed, the holy things of the children of Israel. Unto you I have given them for the anointing's sake, and to your sons for a perpetual ordinance. This shall be yours of the most holy things, reserved from the fire, all their offering of all their meat offerings, and of all their sin offering, and of all their trespass offering, which they bring unto me, that shall be most holy unto you and to your sons. In the most holy place shall you eat it. Every male shall eat of it, as it is holy unto you. This also shall be yours, the heave offering of their gift with all the shake offerings of the children of Israel. I have given them unto you and to your sons and to your daughters with you to be a duty forever. All the clean in your house shall eat of it, meaning those who are in a state of ritual purity. All the fat of the oil and all the fat of the wine and of the wheat, which they shall offer unto the Lord for their first fruits, I have given them unto you. And the first ripe of all that is in their land, which they shall bring unto the Lord, shall be yours. All the clean in your house shall eat of it. Everything separate from the common use in Israel shall be yours. All that first opens the matrix of any flesh, meaning the firstborn offspring, matrix is a womb, which they shall offer unto the Lord, of man or beast shall be yours. But the firstborn of man shall you redeem, and the firstborn of the unclean beast shall you redeem. And those that are to be redeemed shall you redeem from the age of a month, according to your estimation, for the money of 5 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerahs. But the firstborn of a cow, or the firstborn of a sheep, or the firstborn of a goat, shall you not redeem, for they are holy. You shall sprinkle their blood at the altar, and you shall burn their fat. It is a sacrifice made by fire for a sweet savor unto the Lord. You remember that phrase. And the flesh of them shall be yours, as the shake, breast, and as the right shoulder shall be yours. All the heave offerings of the holy things which the children of Israel shall offer unto the Lord have I given you, and your sons and your daughters with you, to be a duty forever. It is a perpetual covenant of salt before the Lord, to you and to your seed, your children with you. And the Lord said unto Aaron, you shall have none inheritance in their land, neither shall you have any part among them. I am your part and your inheritance among the children of Israel. So God is saying you're not going to have land, you're not going to have territory. You get me. I'm your inheritance. You get to be close to God. For behold, I've given the children of Levi all the 10th in Israel for an inheritance for their service, which they serve in the tabernacle of the congregation. Neither shall the children of Israel any more come near the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they certain sin and die, lest they sustain sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service in the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their sin. It's a law forever in your generations, and among the children of Israel they possess none inheritance. For the tithes of the children of Israel, which they shall offer as an offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites for an inheritance. Therefore I have said unto them, among the children of Israel, you shall possess none inheritance, no inheritance. And the Lord spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak also unto the Levites, and say unto them, when you shall take the children of Israel the tithes, of the children of Israel the tithes, which I've given you of them for your inheritance, then shall you take an heave offering of that same for the Lord, even the 10th part of the tithe. So he's saying, you get 10% of the sacrifices, the meat, the oil, the meal, the flour, and of that give God 10%. And your heave offering shall be reckoned unto you as the corn of the barn, or as the abundance of the winepress. So you shall also offer an heave offering unto the Lord for all your tithes, which you shall receive of the children of Israel, and you shall give thereof the Lord's heave offering to Aaron the priest. You shall offer of all your gifts all the Lord's heave offerings, of all the fat of the same shall you offer the holy things thereof. Therefore you shall say unto them, when you have offered the fat thereof, then it shall be counted unto the Levites as the increase of the corn floor, or as the increase of the winepress. And you shall eat it in all places, you and your households, for it is your wages for your service in the tabernacle of the congregation. And you shall bear no sin by the reason of it, when you have offered the fat of it, neither shall you pollute the holy things of the children of Israel, lest you die. So that is the Geneva Bible, 1560. And I guess a couple of things stand out. One is Yahweh's really, 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 really fed up. And what I mean by this is, in the past, anyone could come not past the veil of the Holy of Holies, the most sacred place in the tent of meeting, but they could go into the one level down holy space, where various sacrificial activities took place. They could go quite near to God, to where God actually lives, wherever it is. I mean, because obviously that space, as we've said, became the first and second temples. Then the second temple was raised in 70 AD. And now the Holy of Holies is a cabinet that holds a Torah with a flame, usually a light bulb symbolizing a flame above it. That's one lineage. It's all the same basic idea. That's what we're left with, because there is no more temple, right? But anyone used to be able to come close, so close to God. But the children of Israel have, in rebelling in the last few chapters, have completely exasperated God and honestly led God to feel like they're just not holy enough to be close to him. You know, that's a real rift in the relationship. So he's basically saying, I'm not going to hang out with them anymore in such an intimate way. They're just not clean enough morally. And it's not punitive. You know, we've talked about this a lot. God needs people to purify themselves to be close to him, because he's pure. It's not judgmental. It's not mean. It's not snarky. It's just the way it is. It's like a natural law. And he's reached the conclusion that the grumbling, bitching, ever dissatisfied children of Israel, you know, most of them just are not going to be holy enough to come hang out with him the way they used to. And so he's professionalizing the intimacy And it's really sad. It's like, okay, I've given up on the idea that we can all just sit around and hang out together because you guys just won't purify yourselves. So here I've got this professional cast of priests from Aaron on down, and I will task them with always being holy, always doing the things that purify themselves, that keep them, ready to hang out with me, ready to, come into the most sacred part of the tent of meeting. And they'll know exactly what to do, and I can trust them to do it. And look, I'm providing for this as an eternal service by making sure, rather than giving them land or territory, I'm giving them, 10% of all the sacrifices for them to eat, and for their households and their sons and daughters to eat. Apart from the 10% of that they should sacrifice to me. But that way they'll always have basically an income. They'll always have food, even though they won't have land in the same way. And we'll just solve the problem that way. And so I read this chapter as really sad. It yes, establishes a formal priestly caste, which is something that, has been kind of gesturally being done from time to time in chapters, in the last few books. But this kind of formalizes it more. And honestly, it's God just saying, okay, that experiment didn't work out. People will never bother to do the minimal things I ask them to do to be holy enough to come hang out with me, just informally, to just sit around with me and share good times, basically. And so he's like, I don't know what it's like. It's like if you had a close relative and you asked them to look after your child during the day so you could work, and then time after time they let your child, run wild or run into the street, or they forgot to feed your child, or they just disappointed you over and over. At a certain point, you'd have to face the fact that you can't trust your close relative to take decent care of your child. So you're just going to hire a babysitter, and professionalize the relationship. And that way, at least you'll make sure that, the work gets done. It's sad. It's like you can feel that God would much rather be able to hang out with the children of Israel and have them, reciprocate with that minimal making themselves holy. They just can't do it. He's giving up on that level of intimacy with everybody. And so now he's going to be like, okay, fine. I don't want to do this, but you're a priest. You'll be priests forever. This is what you can have to eat. And you guys can mediate between me and the children of Israel. And at least they won't die from sin, which is what happened a couple of chapters back. They were so rebellious and sinful that the earth swallowed them up. I mean, it was bad. So God doesn't want that. And you can hear again, that even in situations that have been quite horrific, like God literally opened up the earth a few chapters back and swallowed up the rebellious people muttering about the situation they were in. God wants to avoid that in the future. He doesn't want to punish people. He doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to do away with people. He wants people to thrive. So you can feel again that regret. And you've heard that before in various chapters, when people just don't, when they disappoint God. I mean, I always go back to the golden calf. God was so heartbroken. Then he had to wipe out a lot of people. And then he's like, oh, how do we avoid this going forward? Poor God. So that is Numbers 18. And let's take a look at the Hebrew, Bamidbar. And remember, in Hebrew, it's not called Numbers. It's still called In the Desert. Vayomer Adonai el Aharon, and said God to Aaron, Ata uvanecha uveit avicha itcha, you and your sons and the house of your fathers with you, tis'u et on, you'll carry the sin, hamikdash, ve'ata uvanecha itach tis'u et on kehunatchem. You'll bear the iniquity associated with the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear the sin associated with your kehuna, with your priestliness. So I'm just going to skim this and see if there are any big changes. V'gam et achecha, and also your brothers, Mate Levi, the tribe of Levi, Shevet Avicha, your father's tribe, Ha Krev Itcha, and you know that word karov, you know that root, it means to near, to draw near, draw close to you. Ve yilvu alecha vishartucha, they'll join you and minister to you. And that word shirut is very important, that root, it means service. And it's translated here as minister, but what it's really stressed in this chapter is that being a priest is a form of service. It's not ruling over people. It's not being bigger or better than anyone. It's a form of service, like literally like a waiter serving you a meal, right? It's a service. It's a ministry, but it's. Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf. I want to talk about microplastics. Microplastics are infiltrating every aspect of our lives. Some studies estimate that we now consume a credit card's worth of plastic every day through our food, water, and even in the air that we breathe. One study found plastic particles in 100% of human living samples. Nobody is safe from exposure, and it gets worse. These particles don't just sit inertly in your body. They cross the gut lining and leach into your blood, and they disrupt everything. They alter the gut bacteria, suppress immune response, and raise the risk of neurodegenerative diseases, metabolic disorders, and even cancer. Some plastic toxins, such as BPH and phthalates, mimic hormones, interfering with fertility and even damaging DNA. Even if you eat clean and avoid processed foods, you can't opt out. But your gut can help you fight back. Kimchi 1 from Bright Core Nutrition is a potent ally in this toxic world. Created with over 900 probiotic strains unique to kimchi, it's proven to break down BPA, helping you detox from the inside out. It doesn't just support digestion. It protects cells, your brain, your hormones, and your future. Your body was never designed to handle plastic, but your gut can protect you if you give it the right tools. Get 25% off this incredible product by using the code WOLF at mybrightcore.com/wolf, or even better, call my friends at Brightcore and get 50% off plus free shipping. That's 888-575-4996. You've got to protect yourself. Thank you. It's much more humble than a ministry, like shirut. Like in Israel, you still say that you're going to do military service, for instance, shirut tzvai. Ve'ata uvanecha itcha, and you and your sons with you, lifnei ohel ha'edut, are before the tent of testimony. Shamru mishmartecha, listen to that echo, veshamru, and they'll keep mishmartecha, your charge. It's the same root, lishmor, to guard, to keep, right? Umishmeret kol haohel, and the charge of all the tent. Ach el klei hakodesh, but the holy vessels, the holy tools or utensils, the el hamizbeach lo yikravu, that word again, they shall not approach the holy vessels of the altar. They draw near to them, right? Yikarvu, that important word. Velo yamutu gam hem gam atem, and neither they nor you will die. Venilvu alecha, they'll join you. Veshamru et mishmeret, you hear that echo again, and they'll guard the, keep the charge is how they translate it. That's good enough, right? But you hear the echo of that same root. Veshamru et mishmeret, ohel of the tent, moed of witness, of testimony, lechol avodat ha'ohel, for all the service of the tent, vizar, and no stranger, lo yikrav, that word again, won't draw near alechem. toward you. So God is kind of clarifying that only the holiest of his holy people can draw near, and strangers are no longer invited to draw near. And I think that's really sad, because I've stressed throughout that up until this point, everyone was welcome, right? And maybe there will be times in the future when everyone will be welcome. But right now, the state that God is in, you know, strangers from outside the children of Israel are not supposed to come to the tent of meeting or the tent of testimony. Shmartem, that root again, and they'll keep et mishmeret, the charge, that root again, hakodesh, the holy charge of the sanctuary. Ve'et mishmeret hamizbeach, and the charge of the altar. Ve'lo yeh od ketzef, and there won't be wrath al bnei Israel, against the children of Israel. And so I'm going to skip ahead, because a lot of the rest of it is about what do you get to eat, right? And let's look at line 15. Kol peter rechem, every issue of the womb. Lechol basar asher yikrivu le'Adonai. And that word again, karov, that root, to draw close. Every issue of the womb of any creature which they present to the Lord, when they draw close to God, be'adam uva behema, whether of man or beast, yeh lach, will be yours. Ach pado tifde, you hear that repetition of that root, pe dalet he, pado tifde et bechor ha'adam, however you shall redeem the firstborn of man, ve'et bechor ha'behema, and the firstborn of beasts, hatem'ah, that are unclean, tifde, you shall redeem. Now, this is a really important passage, because fast forward to Jesus. Jesus is described, especially by Paul, as redeeming. Well, he's the Redeemer. I mean, if you go to churches all over America, all over Western Europe, you'll see, the Church of the Holy Redeemer, the Church of the Redeemer. What is redemption? This is what it comes from. This very kind of specific material exchange, that people will bring their children, their firstborn, and the firstborn of their animals to the priest, and the priest will redeem it, so that the people can, as I understand it, take them home again. Its redemption shall be performed from the age of a month, according to the valuation, 5 shekels of silver. All right. So this is where we get this idea, which comes to very profound fruition with the death of Jesus and the resurrection of Jesus as the lamb, right? Jesus as the sacrifice, and that in Jesus's sacrifice we are redeemed. It comes from this passage, okay, and from this idea that you need to make a sacrifice to the priest, whether it's a firstborn, human being, or a firstborn animal, and you can redeem the sacrifice, and live again, basically, right? And for all your gifts, you shall set aside every gift of the Lord from its choicest portion, that part of it which is to be consecrated. You and your household may eat it anywhere, for it is your wage for you in exchange for your service in the tent of meeting. Ve'achaltem oto, and you'll eat it, b'chol makom, in every place. Atem uveitchem, you and your households, literally your houses. Ki sachahu, because it is a wage. And by the way, that term sachar, wages, will become very important in the New Testament as well. It comes up a lot. Sachahu lachem, it's a wage to you. Chelef avdotchem, for in exchange for your service, literally avodah, your work, your labor, be'ohel moed, in the tent of meeting. And velo tis'u alav chet, and after you separate the choicest part of it, you shall not bear any sin on account of it. And this word chet is like the strongest word for sin. On is almost a less strong word. This is chet, like the strongest word for sin. Beharemchem et chelbo mimeno. You shall not bear any sin on account of it, but you shall not profane the sacred offerings of the children of Israel, so you shall not die. Ve'et kadashe, and the sacred things, the holy things, b'nei Israel lo techalelu, you won't profane them, velo tamutu, and you shall not die. So God's being pretty clear. You gotta be holy. This is really serious, and here are the ways that you should proceed to be holy and also to have a livelihood for yourself and your families, because you're going to be doing this service, this ministry with the holy things, the utensils, the altar, the candles, the sacrifice, all the things. And this is how you can avoid dying. Like God's like, I don't want anyone else to die. Let's just keep everything holy. So very tragic. So let's see how Numbers 18 reads in the Revised Standard Version. Wow, it's much darker. So line 18, or chapter 18, line 1, the Lord said to Aaron, you, your sons, and your family are to bear the responsibility for offenses connected with the sanctuary, and you and your sons alone are to bear the responsibility for offenses connected with the priesthood. Bring your fellow Levites from your ancestral tribe to join you and assist you when you and your sons minister before the tent of the covenant law. That's a mistranslation. It's not the tent of the covenant law. It's the tent of testimony, or the tent of meeting. They make it much more legalistic. They are to be responsible to you and are to perform all the duties of the tent, but they must not go near the furnishings of the sanctuary or the altar. Otherwise, both they and you will die. They are to join you and be responsible for the care of the tent of meeting, all the work of the tent, and no one else may come near where you are. You are to be responsible for the care of the sanctuary and the altar, so that my wrath will not fall on the Israelites again. That doesn't sound like what it said in Hebrew. Let's take a look. Line 5, the care of the altar. I don't think it said that at all. No, it's not care at all. They shall keep the charge. And here's the word, ushmartem et mishmeret. They'll keep the service, the charge of the Kodesh, the holy place, et mishmeret hamizbeach, and the service, the charge of the altar. Velo yeh od ketzef, and so that there won't be more wrath against the children of Israel, al bnei Israel. It's a very different translation. It's not care. They're not caring. It's much more profound in Hebrew. They're doing this service. They're guarding this service for the Holy of Holies. Wow, I am giving you the service of the priesthood as a gift, he says in line 7. Anyone else who comes near the sanctuary is to be put to death. Let's take a look at line 7. That doesn't sound right at all. Ve'ata, and you, uvanecha itcha, and your sons with you, tishmeru et kehunatchem, you'll keep your kehuna, your being a Cohen, you're being a priest, lechol davar hamizbeach, in all matters concerning the altar, le mibeit le parochet, and with concerning what is within the dividing screen, ve'av datem avodat matana aten et kehunatchem ve'hazar hakerev yamut. And you shall serve. The service as a gift, I have given your kehuna, and any outsider who approaches shall die. So in the Hebrew, it's quite different. It's not, I've given you, did they really say I've given you the priesthood as a gift? I am giving you the service of the priesthood as a gift, they say in the Revised Standard Version. Anyone else who comes near the sanctuary is to be put to death. It's not what it says in Hebrew. In Hebrew, it says, the service as a gift I have given your kehuna. So in Hebrew, it's like, serving me is a gift I've given you as part of your priesthood, which is much less transactional than in the Revised Standard Version. And any outsider who approaches shall die. And that they use that word zar, again, very strong word for outsider. But in the Revised Standard Version, it just says anyone else who comes near the sanctuary is to be put to death. That's not what it says in Hebrew at all, you guys. It it doesn't say they'll be put to death in Hebrew. It says they'll die, like they could die of natural causes. It doesn't say, like you have to put them to death. It's like they'll die. But also, it clearly says hazar, any outsider who draws near will die. And in the Revised Standard Version, it says anyone who draws near will die. I think that's really, will be put to death. I think that's very profound because in the Hebrew, they're still saying that children of Israel can draw near, not past the dividing screen, but that children of Israel can draw near. In the English, modern English, they're saying no one but the priest. And they're also implicitly giving the priest or the state the power to execute people who draw near. So it's a very different meaning. I mean, honestly, the liberties that the Revised Standard Version takes with the original is shocking. And this is really shocking because what this does, and this is consistent, we've seen it over and over, is it falsely assigns the priesthood powers and an elevated status that they don't have in the original. All right. Now let's look at line 15 in the Revised Standard Version. But you must not redeem the firstborn. Okay. Let's go to line 14. Everything in Israel that is devoted to the Lord is yours. The first offspring of every womb, both human and animal, that is offered to the Lord is yours. But you must redeem every firstborn son and every firstborn male of unclean animals. When they are a month old, you must redeem them at the redemption price set at 5 shekels of silver, according to the sanctuary shekel, which weighs 20 gerahs. But you must not redeem the firstborn of a cow, a sheep, a goat, etc. Let's see what it says in the Hebrew. It's not that. Every issue of the womb of any creature. First it starts, any devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. Let's see what it says in the Revised Standard Version. Everything in Israel that is devoted to the Lord is yours. That's not what it says in the Hebrew. Just isn't. It says every devoted thing is yours in the Hebrew. Every devoted thing in Israel is yours. And in the Revised Standard Version says everything in Israel that is devoted to the Lord is yours, which is much different, right? The first offspring of every womb, both human and animal, that is offered to the Lord is yours. Let's see what it says in the Hebrew. Every first issue of the womb of any creature which they present to the Lord, whether of man or beast, shall be yours. However, you shall redeem the firstborn of man, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. But you must redeem every firstborn son and every firstborn male of unclean animals. All right, that's reasonably accurate. The first offspring that is offered to the Lord is yours. So let's look at 21. I give to the Levites and all the tithes in Israel as their inheritance in return for the work they do while serving at the tent of meeting. So it's almost like a job description, like, and these are the benefits, and this is what your pay will be, and you get paid every 2 weeks. Whereas in Hebrew, it reads very differently. Ulivnei Levi hine natati, and to the children of Levi, the tribe, here I have given kol ma'asher b'Yisrael, all the tithes that are in Israel, le nachala, as an inheritance, chelef avodatam, in exchange for their service, their work, asher hem ovdim, which they work, Et avodat ohel moed, the work of the tent of meeting. So I, I, I give to the Levites all the tithes in Israel as their inheritance in return for the work they do while serving at the tent of meeting. All the tithes. I've given all the tithes of Israel. All right. I just think it's kind of prosaic. And say to the Levites, when you present the best part, it will be reckoned to you as the product of the threshing floor or of the winepress. You and your households may eat the rest of it anywhere, for it is your wages for your work at the tent of meeting. By presenting the best part of it, you will not be guilty in this matter. Then you will not defile the holy offerings of the Israelites, and you will not die. Let's see what that is in Hebrew. It's the last line. After you separate the choicest part from it, you shall not bear any sin on account of it, but you shall not profane the sacred offerings of the children of Israel, so that you shall not die. By presenting the best part of it, you will not be guilty in this matter. That's such a different meaning. You shall not bear any sin on account of it. It, I don't know. I guess it's fine. It's not obviously, the last few lines are not obviously mistranslated, but again, I don't know if you can hear this the way I hear it. It could be very subjective, but it's much more like God is explaining the laws of holiness, that just are, you know, to the priests. If you do it this way, you won't die and you won't carry the sin. As opposed to in the Revised Standard Version, which is again the modern Catholic version. Nothing against Catholics, I always say this. It's just a typical example of what I think of as kind of bad and faulty modern translations. It's a much flatter tone in which God is kind of saying, you know, God is always misrepresented as punitive. You know, if you do it this way, I won't kill you. You know, if you do it this way, I won't execute you. You won't be guilty in this matter. So there's much more kind of guilt and shame language in the Revised Standard Version than in the original, where it's just God saying, okay, this is how it works. We have to be holy. So, you know, this is, you'll receive this food as an inheritance. You'll eat it. You can be holy to me. You can handle all the utensils. Strangers can't come in. In the English of the Revised Standard Version, it sounds much more like a really boring bureaucratic job interview, where the terms are being spelled out by God, and where, you know, it's like a mean boss saying, and if you put one foot wrong, like I'll kill you. So I hope you can hear the difference there. All right. So I think we've come to the end of the passages, and almost the end of our time together. Boy, that went fast. And so let's see some comments. Max Frank 13 says, lovely. And Sandy Hardy 3419 says, love the clarifications. Thank you for all you do, Naomi. Thank you. You know, Sandy Hardy, I am amazed that other people also see these readings as valuable the way I do, or, you know, obviously I do because I'm compelled to do them. But I think I shared with you guys that we're in the top, like top 100 podcasts for Judaism in Nigeria, Ghana, the Republic of Congo, and Pakistan, and also in Australia and one other African country. I think it was Republic of Congo again. And I'm just so moved by that. People in very surprising places all over the world want to know what did God really say? You know, what did the Bible really say? I mean, I can't think of a text that's been filtered through so much ideology and agendas. And I feel like it's really important to know what the text really says. And I appreciate you being with me on this journey. I love it that you guys care as much as I do, obviously, about what the text really says. And I love it that you're so patient that we go through the Hebrew and compare it, to the modern version, of course, to the beautiful Geneva Bible, and see kind of how it morphed over time. And I hope that even with a kind of technical and kind of depressing chapter like Numbers 18, you're still, hanging in there, as we go with God and the children of Israel on this journey. We're almost at the promised land. We're going to get there. It's going to happen. There's some drama ahead, but they're going to get there. Not anytime soon. A whole generation is going to die, and a new generation is going to be born before the children of Israel can get to the promised land. But there is forward momentum, and I guess this was an important pause on the journey where God is recalibrating and saying, you know what, I can't have everything I wanted with these people, but I'm going to make it work. So Aaron, you do this, your sons will do that, you'll eat this, that'll be your inheritance forever. And let's just keep forging ahead and trying to, make this marriage work is really what it feels like. Okay, you guys. And, I hope you can also feel how, to me, the New Testament and the arrival of Yeshua is such a logical next stage or eventual stage in this same story, right? It's not a departure. It's not a different story. You can feel, and we're not there yet, and I may have to learn, Greek in order to do this with the New Testament the way I've done it with the Old Testament, but I'm sure you can feel how when Jesus finally shows up, it's after, these long, laborious, difficult conversations in which God is just trying to get through to his children. And then the figure of Yeshua is like, okay, I've tried everything. Let me try this. This is what it means. This is what God is after. This is what it means to, love God and love your neighbor. There's no misunderstanding here. And I hope that you also, from these passages in Numbers 18, really hear, especially if you're Christian, but Jews too, that theme of sacrifice and redemption. And I've mentioned this, but to this day, Jews at Passover have a lamb shank, a paschal lamb. It's called a bone from a lamb that's singed and seared in a flame to represent the sacrifice of the lamb, in the temple. And to this day, Christians see Jesus as the Lamb of God. There are churches all over the West that show a lamb with a crucifix, the Lamb of God, and they see that trope of his sacrifice and the blood of the lamb, redeeming us. And this passage is where that comes from. That transaction with the priests, that transaction with God, that, we're in a state of sin, so we need to be redeemed. It's not the same here, right? The redemption isn't because of a state of like original sin. That's not such a Jewish idea. But it's definitely a Jewish idea that, and it's God's idea, according to this text, that we, God gives us everything, and we should also sacrifice to God, and in order to be in a state of harmony, with God, and that we can redeem our firstborn sons, or the firstborn of the sheep and the goats, through this money transaction, which is where the trope for Jesus's death redeeming us from sin, from hell, and so on, originally comes from. So isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that metaphors, from completely different cultures, completely different environments, survive and evolve to mean different things, but the sacrifice of Jesus as a lamb absolutely comes from Numbers 18. Crazy, 1,500 years before. The power of that idea didn't go away. It evolved into something new. But it's I hope you see the continuity. All right, you guys, that's been an hour. We've run out of time. That's the end of our story, but for today. I'll try to pick up again tomorrow. It's not easy, but I'm going to redouble my efforts because it is also easy, and I always get so much out of it once I jump in. And I hope you do too. So if this is an important series for you, I need your help. It takes a whole team to produce and distribute these. And please subscribe to Outspoken on Substack and go over to Daily Clout and donate or subscribe there. It really helps. If you can't afford to, understood, times are hard. These are free. If you can afford to donate on behalf of all those people who can't afford to subscribe or donate to make it possible for us to keep doing this work, please do. It really means a lot to us, and it lets us keep our doors open and keep sharing this content with you that has no barriers, no boundaries. It's out there in the world, making its way to the Congo and Indonesia and Pakistan and a lot of really interesting places around the world. Australia, which just had a horrible massacre. Nigeria, pretty cool. So thank you for being with me on this journey. I will try to see you tomorrow, and please do support us. And I love you all, and I hope this is helpful, and we'll pick up with numbers 19 tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.